In the 1980s, I was a curate at Christchurch, Thornton Cleaveries. That's just up the road from Blackpool. I became interested in a new media called video. Now, don't forget, we were still using things like Bakelite spin dial telephones, clacking away on typewriters. No computers, no mobile phones, no scanners, no photocopiers. A far different world to today. I made friends with a Blackpool man called Alec Hamilton. Now, Alec produced wedding videos. I recognised immediately the value of it as an excellent communications tool. Now, Alec's editing suite was housed in his bedroom. His wife was very tolerant, Frances, bless her. We would sit there sometimes till 2 and 3 in the morning. I wanted to make a film about my parish. Alec agreed to help. So he manned the camera and did the editing, and I wrote the script and directed it. The film was greeted with great success. We showed it in the church hall. It was packed. And we ended up raising £1,000 for the Kidney Research Charity, which amazed us. Well, the word got around, and very soon a queue started forming. Deaths in my parish were very high on account of retirement and also an ageing population. I felt moved to make a programme about the pain of bereavement. I saw it a lot. I wanted to try and help folk cope with their heartfelt loss. So I formed a small video crew of volunteers, and off we went. Pop star Gary Numan was very kind. He composed the logo title music in his editing studio in London. Fellow clergyman and friend Gerald wrote the music, composed the words, and even sung on the soundtrack. So everybody was there to pitch in. God surrounded me with a great team, and he always did right to the end. What you're about to see is a very early production of what turned out to be a very helpful programme at that time, assisting people cope with their loss. It was shot on a single tube, inexpensive VHS camera and edited on VHS machines. We had to allow for a 12 frame skidding technique, unheard of. Please make allowances then for the low quality, bearing in mind we were pioneers venturing into the unknown with something new. Little did I realise that within a few years, after winning an award of £45,000 for Christians in the Media, we blossomed into a professional company under the banner of BDTV, Blackburn Diocese Televideo. We made over 200 programmes, and we raised over £2 million for a whole variety of worthy causes. I hope you found this helpful.
But now you've gone, I'm all alone. and I'm lost for what to do. We had our ups and downs, we shared the sadness and the fun. We talked, we laughed, we roused,
earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, in sure and certain hope of the resurrection to eternal life. The death of a husband or a wife, or of a parent or of a child, is a shattering experience. Suddenly one is faced with the daunting task of coping with all that bereavement brings, and with the challenge of finding a new life with some sense and purpose. This, of course, takes time and is always longer than we think, and assistance of various kinds may be needed. I came here to Christchurch, Thornton, to serve as a curate under the guidance of the Reverend Eric Flood, who was the vicar. I'd only been here a short time when, sadly, Eric became very ill with cancer of the liver. At the age of 48, he died, leaving a wife and 3 children.
Eric had been in a coma for 3 days. It was a Monday afternoon and we sat round his bed. And it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when he died, and we were all with him. I sat and held his hand.
If you could paint a helpful picture of grief for other people, what would it be?
Well, a very good analogy is that of the tide coming in. Imagine being on the seashore and the tide at high tide, and the waves are very high, and at first the waves engulf you completely. In fact, you feel you're going under. And then gradually, as the tide recedes and the waves lessen, each time the grief engulfs you, it lessens and lessens gradually, so that your down times are getting less and less, and then occasionally another wave will come in further and it's 2 steps backwards again.
It sounds to me as if you're saying there's no quick way out of grief.
At the time it's intolerable. The pain is absolutely intolerable. It's a blackness and feeling the need to hide away, and I used to go to bed for periods of a time in the daytime just because I wanted, I don't know what I wanted, I just didn't want to be, because part of me had gone. I thought I'd never recover, I thought I'd never get better, but gradually time has healed, and say time's a healer. Everyone says it, and it's a cliche, but time is a healer.
Joyce, what advice could you give to someone watching this video?
Advice isn't a very good thing to give anyone, I don't think. People ask for advice, but I think really I would rather sit with them and listen to how they feel.
Is that good advice? Do talk about it.
If I were giving advice, I would say yes, talk about it, share it.
To lose a father and a husband is a shattering blow for any family to come to terms with. The only consolation was that at least the Flood family had some time to prepare for the coming catastrophe. But death can strike very suddenly, as it did to a 17-year-old member of the close-knit Rogers family.
During the course of the race, they were, it was in the Peak District, and they were on a downward descent, and of course the manoeuvre for places, so it was a very prestigious race. And apparently this motorcycle came in opposite direction, and literally, we didn't get the story whether one wobbled and the other wobbled, and literally ran into him, causing to break his leg, and he had internal injuries, and that was the trouble, and the distance to get to the hospitals, things like this. I think personally that if you close off and think, well, they've gone now, I think that's a bit negative. I've always kept Jim with us, photographs, things like that. I didn't throw his things away, and through that I got consolation, just through looking through things, perhaps reading a book that they've read even. It sounds strange, but you know, it's just keeping them with you a while. And eventually you can get along on your own, but I personally feel they're still with you. It was tradition apparently to go to church the following Sunday, and so we sort of went, my husband and I and 2 or 3 of my sons, and I'll be honest, it was a crutch to us.
I suppose you've got to have gone through it to really understand.
Yes, you've got to. Someone who's had something similar are the only people that can really help you, actually.
Tony and Marion Swindlehurst set up home here in Bolton 11 years ago. They were your average family with their 2 sons, David and Michael. Then one day, the sun set, never to rise again. At the age of 42, bank manager Tony Swindlehurst talks of how he coped with the saddest day of his life.
About 10 o'clock of the evening, Marion took ill. I realised that something was seriously wrong. We called the doctor out. 2 o'clock the following morning, she asked for her 2 boys, her 2 sons. She asked for the window to be opened. She couldn't get enough air. I tried that, it didn't work. I sat with her in my arms and fanned her with a magazine or something that was about, and thankfully she slipped very peacefully away.
Did you feel any emotions like anger?
I expected to. I lost a goddaughter at 18 months. I lost a sister-in-law at 21. I lost my brother when he was 19, and that made me very angry. Very, very angry.
At or who was your anger directed at?
I couldn't direct it at any one person. I must admit, I directed it at the church. I directed it at my religion, what I've been brought up with.
Tony, how would you describe grief to anyone?
Very difficult. You grieve in different ways. I mean, I did shed a lot of tears. She was very dear to me, was Marion, and she was a wonderful person. My way out of it was telling myself that I was being selfish, that I wasn't grieving for Marion. I was feeling sorry for myself.
When did you decide to sort out clothes and things like that?
I knew there were certain things that I had to do, and so I set myself tasks. I will do this the first week, I will do this the second week, I will do this the third week. And thankfully I was able to stick to it.
Why did you set yourself tasks?
Because I knew it had to be done. And I felt the longer I left it, the longer I would be prolonging my own agony, sorrow, upset, whatever.
What advice could you give to someone right in the middle of bereavement now, watching this video perhaps?
Set themselves tasks. Give themselves deadlines for doing whatever. Expect the loneliness, because it's going to come, but you come out the other side of it. It doesn't go away completely. I don't think it ever will go away completely.
Did you get the impression that people didn't want to talk about it, that they avoided the subject?
Generally, yeah. Generally, yes. There's 1 or 2 people come to mind who really just sat and listened and held my hand. There's nothing they could say. There was absolutely nothing they could do. They were just there and they were helping me. And I'll be forever thankful to them.
I'll never forget the day spent giving comfort to a brave little lady from Oldham trying to cope with the loss of her partner. Margaret and Harold moved here to Thornton Cleeves from Oldham and were very happy here. And they were regular churchgoers.
A very gentle man, really. Very calm, very loving. And he'd do anything for anybody, especially old people. The worst part, I think, was waiting for news of when he had died. And then I just sat on the bed crying and pulled myself together and thought, well, everything has to be done, life has to go on. And going to church was the main thing for me. I know I went to church after he'd died, before the funeral, and they couldn't understand why I'd gone, but if he'd have been with me, he'd have gone with me. So I just went, and I got my strength from there, really. I think if you throw yourself in helping other people, I think you get over it more. And don't be afraid to talk about people that have died. I think that helps more than anything. He never has seemed to have left me. He's very, very close all the time.
Sorrow is the price of love. If we could banish love and care for others, there would be no such thing as sorrow. But being as we are, with human hearts and human affections, we live in this rhythm of life and death and sorrow and joy.
Of all the times we had, it was never quite enough to say the things I meant to say, to show you all my love. I try to find a reason for the way things have turned out. I try to find some answers, but I'm left with only doubts. There has to be much more to life than the crazy way life ends. It's that hope that keeps me looking to the time we'll meet again.
It must be true then, that whatever is happening, life must go on. Go on with the knowledge that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope.
I have my memories of all the good times that we had. For the time we had together, there's no way I can be sad. With our love, my hope and those memories, I know I'll see this through.
tears away. Oh, keep right on smiling as you go on your way. 'Cause if you don't keep on smiling, you'll never chase your blues away. You've got troubles, you've had some sorrow too. I see something, I can see you're feeling blue. Well, remember those who love you, the wee bit things you do. And remember there's always someone who is much worse off than you.